was the youngest head coach in the country at the time.
He was indeed, yes. Yes.
So you've got yourself as the youngest AD.
Taking quite a chance.
And now you have a baseball coach that's the youngest.
Exactly.
Baseball coach in the nation.
So what was it about him as opposed to somebody older, what separated him from the rest of the competition?
You know, it certainly wasn't his baseball coaching resume. At that age, and having just come out of his undergraduate degree at Iowa State, it doesn't make sense that, you know, that I would be hiring him just because he had proven himself already as a baseball coach.
Right.
What it was really his journalism major at Iowa State. Iowa State, if you didn't know, is one of the best schools in the country for journalism. And so he writes well, he wrote well, and of course he had the baseball background coming out of Iowa State and playing for them, and the combination just really fit. Now, what would happen in the interview process always is that we would have the coaches meet with the ball players in this case, with other departments like the admissions office and the registrars. After that process, then I would interview, perhaps, if you will, the final interview of the day.
Okay.
And my attention span that day was split. It just so happened the night before, the scoreboard in the right center had caught on fire. And I needed to purchase a brand new scoreboard, which of course wasn't in the budget, have the old scoreboard dismantled, the new one shipped in, and of course installed.
Did you ever consider students holding numbers?
Oh yeah, sure. That's a
stopwatch guy in the
center. John would tell you that he never thought he was going to get the job. He thought that I was just interviewing him, going through the motions, if you will, because my attention, as I said, was split. I was walking around campus with him in tow, going up to the finance office, and then going over to facilities, and then coming back to the gym and overseeing the dismantling of the old scoreboard. And all the time I'm interviewing him, asking him questions about baseball and questions about his journalism degree and why he would like to come and be here and coach baseball in Duluth, Minnesota.
And about that scoreboard.
Yeah.
Was there anything that struck you about him other than you know, his journalism background, just his personality?
What about when he talked about the game?
Yeah, I fancied myself someone who knew baseball. I had played through high school, played a little minor league baseball. I thought I could talk a good game. I thought I understood the game. And it was all I could do to stay ahead of him. And I couldn't. I mean, it was smoke and mirrors for me just to have a conversation with him. He was so far advanced in his knowledge of the game, not only the X's and O's, but the leadership of in this case, young men, and what he would do to build. And I always said he never built a baseball team, he built a program, something that endured, something that would ultimately include parents. And in the case of the Lottie family out of Ulu, Steve, Jeff, and DJ, all three played for St. Scholastica. He already knew at that young age, not just the game, but how to build a program that would last, well, a lifetime and probably well beyond that. It was incredible. My wife and I, my wife Karen and John, and at that time his fiancee Colleen, after we had interviewed and walked around campus, we ended up having dinner at the, well, you'll appreciate this, the Buena Vista.
Yeah, all right.
And that's where we talked baseball, and we talked about the future of St. Scholastica athletics, and my mind was pretty much made up by the end of dinner.
Okay.
He was just, he was an extraordinary person who, for whatever reason, I suspect comes from his parents, his upbringing, he knew what he wanted, and he knew how to get it, and he did it the right way. Because if you've ever met any of the St. Scholastica baseball players, I mentioned the Lotties, certainly the brothers Kevin and Kurt Kuklinski, Aaron Homolka, Ben Sickler out of Hinckley. I mean, they're extraordinary. The thing about them is not only could they play baseball well, but their grades were outstanding, and they took on leadership roles in the community and on campus. And you know, his legacy is going to live for a very, very long time. And right now he has extraordinary assistant coaches on staff that are moving into, I suspect, some type of interim role.
Tim Anderson?
Tim Anderson, TA, as we refer to him, has been with him for, it must be 15 years because he played for him.
16 years, this is last year, so
years.
entering his 17th year as an assistant under Coach Baig, so yeah.
Well, that's extraordinary. And Joe Wicklund, who played for him, and Justin Harriman, referred to him as Hairball, who is, all of these are just fantastic people. A couple of years into John's career at St. Scholastica, we talked about planning a spring trip. I mean, you understand that in parts of the country right now, they're into full baseball season. In order to get some games in, we thought we needed to take a southern trip, and that was something that wasn't in the budget, but that first year, a dream became a reality. Now, granted, when they went, and I've told this story, that team that went that first year will forever be known as the Griswolds, because there was no motor coach in the budget. So we had 15 passenger vans, as you can imagine, with high schools or small college athletics, but we also had station wagons.
All right.
And I mentioned to some of the younger players this past week at the funeral that you'll probably have to Google station wagon. I suspect you might not know what that is.
Vista Cruiser.
Yeah, Vista Cruiser.
Kevin Snyder hired John Baig back in 1991, and unfortunately John passed away here of cancer. Kevin, if you could, talk about the phone call. Talk about when you heard that John had finally passed away.
Players had started to, former players had started to rally and make phone calls. A week ago Tuesday when I got the call from Colleen Baggs.
Okay.
She called me that morning, and that was extraordinary to me, because she has so many other things to concern herself with. But let's see if I can get through this. Right after that, I was getting texts and email messages from, think about this, from Oklahoma, from Indiana, from Mexico, from Florida, from Texas. So the program had expanded to the point where, you know, after 17 complete seasons and graduates moving on and getting married and having children and things like this, they move away from Duluth, and here his reach was all across the country as people started to find out and it's connecting that way.
And me and Kenny had heard about it, you know, a few months earlier, you know, and you have to give it up to the media, because at times we can say the media has become National Enquirer-ish and tabloid-ish. But a lot of the media knew, but they all, out of respect to the family, everybody held it under, you know, under wraps to give them their privacy and respect. And really, you got to give it up to the Tom Hansons, the gang at DIO, and, you know, the News Tribune for not leaking it or anything like that. So you really have to give it up to the media for respecting Colleen and the kids', you know, privacy.
That's very perceptive on your part, and that goes all the way back to when I was there too. During good times and especially during difficult times, thinking back to Marsh Nelson and Bruce Bennett, and when Tom Hanson was just starting out, and you think about Ray Higgins, who was also a very dear friend of John. That's how they were then, and that's how the local media today is. And so it's not surprising. They have never gone after the sensational story, even when they could have.
Right, right.
And they clearly understand our community, Duluth, the community of St. Scholastica, and in this case, the baseball program. And John was very private about his condition. He was matter-of-fact about it. He understood the prognosis. That's an inner strength that probably comes from his faith and from such a strong family that is unwavering, and it will probably serve Colleen and the children very well going forward.